The last 10 turns of an age in Civ 7 can be a great time. The tumblers are falling into place, or the relics are falling into their spots. You're counting your treasure, deciding if you can sneak in one last settlement, maybe. It's a peaceful time at the end of exploration or modern when you can just enjoy your snowballing and cruise to... Or you can sweat your way through the last 10 turns, wondering if you're going to get any victory condition at all. And the only snowball you're familiar with is in a childhood memory. You are one mistake away from game hell. Luckily, there are plenty of guides to help you lift off at the start of a game. But unluckily, there are not so many that tell you how to land this plane when you're in an out-of-control spinning descent. The game I'm about to describe falls somewhere in between those two extremes. It's a case of some completed goals, some uncompleted goals, and other leaders breathing down my neck waiting for me to fall short. If you watched my previous video about Gilgamesh in antiquity, then you know where we left off. I had just lost Corinthos to Ashoka. What I didn't describe was my plan to immediately take the city back as soon as the New Age began. I was halfway to Corinthos with my commander at the end of antiquity, and I was displeased with Ashoka. But a few hundred years between ages gives you time to develop a little perspective. I realized I had his settlement to Sali that I had taken from him in an act of revenge, and it was sitting right in the middle of my territory where it looked perfectly natural, while Corinthos was pretty snugly tucked at the eastern edge of his territory. So maybe we could let bygones be bygones. Not only that, but I'd chosen the Normans for exploration, and they're one of my comfort civs. I was telling myself I needed to take it easy for this age. At the same time, I was still trying to balance things out with the other leaders. I didn't want to spend the entire age of exploration making war when I wanted to be making friends. I mean, we're talking Gilgamesh here, right? So I set about trying to make people like me, and was looking ahead to an era of peace. I'd finished antiquity in a dead heat with Harriet Tubman, and needed to stack up legacy points to put her behind me. Going to war, as I said in that video, was not an attractive option for either of us, as we could both stack up war support to make each other cry. The real question was, would I be able... Actually, this video isn't about any of that. The age, as it turned out, was relatively peaceful. I stayed friends with Genghis, rather than the soap opera of antiquity, even when he drew me into a war with Machiavelli, who wasn't even close to me geographically. So I waited until Machiavelli spun himself out and then collected a settlement from him. And I worked on my legacy points. In fact, I got my religious relics so quickly I had to hoard them without placing them so I could draw the age out and collect more points. So I had another cultural legacy path in hand. No suspense there. But there was a new player, Himiko, High Shaman, and we battled point after point right up to the end of the age. The real question was, could I fend her off and end the age with a lead? When you're in this position and that 10 turns window comes up, you can sometimes get a little flushed, at least I do. It's like a mini death. I thought I would have more time, and right away you start knocking things off your to-do list. You maybe can't build that last wonder, or maybe you can't complete that unique quarter that you haven't even started yet, or take those last 2 settlements you need to complete the military legacy path. You had such plans. Then it's time to get down and dirty, and the 10 turns warning can be amazing in terms of providing focus. I'm naturally a procrastinator, so this kind of thing is a kick in the pants and makes me look at exactly what I need to finish things off on a high note. First off, no more deals with Himiko or even Tubman. To be fair, I had started to realize that before the 10 turns. The endeavors benefit both parties, and that doesn't work for me. But if I could get them to agree to deals that weren't in their wheelhouse, a food deal for either of them, for example, that might be okay. Just no culture deal for Himiko, and I guess no military aid or economic deal for Harriet. This is where Gilgamesh's irresistible nature can be a distraction. Sometimes you have to make him say no, or it could cost you the game. I remembered I was behind on my economic path, maybe too far behind, but I had a few good treasure fleet locations, most of them close to the homelands, so maybe I could pull this off. It was going to have to be a buzzer beater, though. And oh yeah, I remembered. I was at war. Machiavelli had declared against Genghis again, and so declared against me when I stuck by my guy. I had sent a few ships down towards Madrid and was mulling an attack when they arrived there, but I kind of forgot about it until they showed up on his doorstep with about 8 turns left in the game. And by then, I happened to have a few more cogs nearby. Suddenly, there was a possibility of a war party. And if I could snag one more settlement, there was another legacy point in it for me, even though I wasn't going to finish the military path as a whole. At this point, it wasn't about overpowering the game, but simply eking out enough of a victory that it wouldn't look too bad on my resume. This is what I mean by the last 10 turns. You can tie up some loose ends, get an extra point or two, turn a game around a little. They can be the climax of the age, or it's denouement, depending on how you're doing overall. Obviously, the most significant goal here was the economic legacy, but I couldn't really put wings on my ships or change the weather to make them move faster. That part, at this point in the game, was out of my control. But I could pummel Madrid with my ships and their commander, and so I did. It looked good for a few rounds of bombarding, but surprisingly, given how few settlements Machiavelli had left, he kept populating the city with units I had to bombard again and again, while pillaging when there was an opening to do it. I could only fit so many of my ships around the city center, and I couldn't get land units there anytime soon. It was another race against the game clock, and there was no 3-point shot line. And 3-point shots would have been handy with my treasure fleets. The best one I had brought in 2 points at a time, so I needed quite a few to come in to get the 6 points I still needed at the 10-turn mark. Were both cases hopeless? How it ended was with no new settlement. And I finished 1 treasure point shy of the economic legacy. I was disappointed, but couldn't be too upset because I'd still managed to achieve my overall goal of being ahead at the end of exploration. 1 point between me and Himiko. The 10-turn warning hadn't yielded anything game-changing this time, but maybe it would in Modern. Playing a full game means you get 3 last chances, which is pretty decent as far as last chances go. And I got to use Gilgamesh again, learning how easy he was to play and how smoothly he went along with my normal inclinations and strategies. That was pretty cool all on its own. So far so good in my overall campaign. Now I just had to pick my next civ, as the last 10 turns were already fading from my memory, and I started to plan out the coming age. So that's it for this episode. If you'd like to see the end of the game in the modern age with Gilgamesh, let me know in the comments below. And if you liked what you've seen or heard this time around, drop a like or a subscribe down below. This has been Civilized Raccoon, and I'll see you next time.